The quiet corner the first time Ana de Armas saw him. He was sitting by himself under a tree, eating quietly from a small container. The sun filtered through the leaves and danced on his black jacket. Everyone else was crowded around the food trucks, laughing, shouting, and trading stories. But Keanu sat alone, legs crossed, his back to the laughter. He looked peaceful, almost invisible, almost ... forgotten. Ana thought it was just a one-time thing. Maybe he needed space. Maybe he had a phone call. Maybe he liked nature. But the next day and the day after, he was there again. Same quiet spot, same simple lunch. Same gentle smile when someone passed by and nodded. He never joined the crowd. He never interrupted. He just ate, cleaned up, and returned to set like nothing was unusual. She asked one of the makeup artists, "Does Keanu always eat alone?" The woman shrugged. "Yeah, been doing that since day one. Guess he likes it that way." Another crew member added, "He's kind, polite, but always distant, like he's here. ... but also somewhere else." Ana couldn't ignore the weight in her chest. Something about it didn't feel right. Not sad exactly, just ... heavy, like a quiet ache. You can't name. A few days later, during a break, she grabbed her lunch and made her way toward the tree. Her heart beat a little faster as she approached. Keanu looked up, surprised, not annoyed, just quietly surprised. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. He smiled. A small, real smile. Of course not. They sat together, and for a while they said nothing, just ate. The wind played with her hair. Birds chirped somewhere nearby. For a long silence, he finally spoke. "Most people don't like quiet," he said softly. "They fill it with noise. Jokes, stories, phones." Ana nodded. "I used to be like that." He turned slightly, watching her face. "Not judging, just curious." "Used to? Then I lost someone." Keanu didn't flinch, didn't ask who. He just nodded, like he understood exactly what she meant. And in that moment, Ana felt something shift, like a small invisible thread was tying them together. After that day, she joined him a few more times. Not every day. Just when the noise got too loud, when the world felt too heavy. They talked about small things, movies, books, the way birds circled above the sets, but never about why he always ate alone, until one cloudy afternoon. It was colder that day, the wind sharper, the sky gray. They sat under the same tree, but something in Keanu's eyes looked different, distant, haunted. "You ever lose someone," he asked quietly, "and feel like the world just ... moved on without you?" Ana nodded. "Yes. I lost my best friend," he said. "He was like a brother. We shared everything, dreams, failures, pain. We made each other better. And then, one day he was gone." She didn't speak. Didn't need to after that. Noise felt strange, Keanu said. People laughing too loud, joking about things that don't matter. I didn't hate them for it. I just couldn't be part of it anymore. He paused, his voice cracked slightly. "So, I started sitting alone. Not because I wanted to be alone, ... but because I didn't want to fake being okay." Ana's eyes stung. Keanu looked down at his hands. "They say time heals. But what if time just teaches you how to pretend better?" Ana reached out gently, placing her hand on his. Maybe time doesn't heal. Maybe people do." He looked up at her. Really looked, and for the first time since they met, he didn't seem alone. But the real story, the truth behind why he still sat alone every day, wouldn't come out until a small accident on set changed everything. When it did, it didn't just break hearts. It changed the entire crew forever. The jacket on the chair had happened on a Thursday. The morning had started like any other. The crew was buzzing, setting up a complicated crane shot. The air smelled of fresh coffee and sawdust from the props. People laughed, shared memes on their phones, and rushed around with clipboards and headsets. But in the middle of all that noise, Keanu was, as always, sitting under his tree with his quiet lunch. Ana watched him from a distance. She had grown used to seeing him there cross-legged, still and steady like part of the landscape, but something about that day felt off. Maybe it was the way his shoulders sagged, or the way his fingers held the spoon too loosely, like he was miles away in his mind. After lunch, everyone returned to the main set for a stunt rehearsal. Keanu was supposed to jump from a platform and roll, a move he had practiced a dozen times. But this time, as he leaped, something slipped. The floor was slightly wet from the rain the night before, and his foot skidded just enough to throw his body off balance. There was a loud thud. People gasped. He landed hard, his body twisting midair. The stunt team rushed forward. Anna was already sprinting. "Keanu," someone shouted. He lay still for a second, then tried to push himself up. But his wince told everyone the truth before he said a word. "It's my shoulder," he muttered. "I think it popped." They called the medic. The shoot was paused. The director looked worried but calm. Keanu was helped into a chair, breathing steadily but clearly in pain. He kept apologizing. Not for the injury, but for causing delay. "It's fine, man," one of the grips said. "Just rest." The medic wrapped his arm in a sling and advised him to take the day off. Keanu nodded quietly. No complaints. No drama. Just that same tired, humble smile. When he was told to rest inside the trailer, he insisted on staying near the crew. "I'm okay here," he said softly. "Just need to sit." They brought him a chair and a blanket. Ina grabbed his jacket from the ground, dusted it off, and placed it gently over the back of his seat. He looked up at her, surprised. "Thanks." "You always help others," she said. "Just let us help this once." Then, something small happened. Something that seemed ordinary until it wasn't. A young production assistant named Leo walked by with 2 coffees. He was new, always nervous, always trying too hard to fit in. Glanced at Keanu and stopped. ... quotes. Would you like one?" Leo asked, holding out a cup. "It's just black. No sugar." Keanu looked up, touched. "Thank you." The crew watched, in silence, as Leo placed the cup in Keanu's good hand. Something shifted in the air. Something unspoken then. One of the electricians grabbed a chair and sat beside him. "You're not sitting alone today," she said with a grin. Within 5 minutes, there were 6 chairs around Keanu. They weren't talking loudly. They weren't pretending everything was fine. They were just there, eating, sipping coffee, sitting in silence beside him and Keanu. Keanu looked up at Anna with eyes that shimmered just a little too much. "I'm not used to this." Anna smiled gently. "Maybe it's time you got used to not being alone." For the rest of the afternoon, Keanu rested while people quietly checked on him. Not out of pity, but something else. Something deeper. Respect. Affection. Connection. After the shoot ended for the day, the crew gathered for a quick meeting to reschedule scenes. Someone noticed Keanu's jacket still hanging on the back of the chair. Leo reached for it to bring it over, but froze. There was something tucked inside the inner pocket, folded piece of paper. Old, creased, carefully placed. It had fallen. Halfway out, "Hey, I think this is yours," Leo said, handing it to Keanu, but Keanu didn't move. His hand shook as he took the paper and slowly opened it. Anna watched his face change, the way his jaw tightened, the way his lips parted, but no. Words came, and then she saw something else. Pain. The kind people carry so long they forget what it feels like to let go. He folded the paper slowly, pressed it to his chest, and closed his eyes. "What is it?" she asked gently. He opened his eyes, and for the first time he answered. "It's a letter," he whispered, "from my fiancé. The last one she wrote. Nobody said a word. I keep it with me," he said. "Not to remember the pain, because it's the one thing that makes me feel close to her." Anna's eyes filled with tears, not out of sympathy, but because she understood now. Every lonely lunch, every silent smile, every moment he sat alone under the triad wasn't about sadness. It was about holding on. It's about not letting time erase love. And from that day on, no one let Keanu sit alone again. But the truth about that letter, what it said inside, ... That story wasn't over yet. The letter she never finished sheathed. Next day, the weather changed. The sky was clear, but there was a softness in the air, like the world had been washed clean overnight. Keanu came to set with his arm still in a sling. The crew greeted him differently. Now not with forced cheerfulness or awkward sympathy, but with quiet respect. They saw him, really saw him. Anna met him by the trailers holding 2 coffees. "Black, no sugar," she said. Keanu gave her a soft smile, remembered. They walked to the familiar tree, and though he sat in his usual spot, it didn't feel the same. It wasn't lonely anymore. It was shared now, a sacred place of truth. "Do you mind," Anna asked gently, "if I ask what the letter said?" Keanu looked down at his hands. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out the folded paper. He unfolded it slowly, with the same care someone gives to a fragile photograph. The edges were worn, the ink faded slightly. But to him, every word was alive. He didn't read it out loud. Instead, he told the story in pieces. "Her name was Jen," he began softly. "We met before everything, before the movies, before the chaos. She was a writer, not famous, not flashy. But her words, ... they stayed with you. She made you feel like the world was still kind." He paused, looking far away. "We were supposed to get married that summer. She wrote me letters while I was filming in another country. Every week one would arrive. I kept them all. But this one came the day after she died." Anna swallowed hard. "Car crash," he said quietly. "A drunk driver. Of the day she was on her way to mail me a package. He said she died instantly, but I don't know if that's better or worse." The wind moved through the trees, whispering like soft memories. The letter, he continued, was already in the mail. When it arrived, I couldn't open it for days. And when I finally did, it didn't feel like a goodbye. It felt like a moment frozen in time. A piece of her that was still alive. Handed the letter to Anna. "You can read it," he said. Anna took it carefully. Her eyes moved slowly over the faded lines. "Keanu, I saw a couple dancing in the street. Today, no music, just the sound of the wind and laughter. It made me think of you, of how you always hum under your breath when you're happy. You don't know you do it, but I notice. I notice everything. The way you lean forward when you listen. The way you touch my hand like you're afraid I might disappear. I miss you. Not in a sad way, just in that soft, aching way where everything reminds me of you. I hope you're taking care of yourself. Eat something warm. Wear your jacket, even if you think you won't need it. And if the days get heavy. ... Remember, you are more than your sorrow. I love you, always. Even when we're apart. Even when the world forgets to be kind. You are still my favorite story. Forever yours." Janana finished reading, with tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "She sounds incredible," she whispered. "She was," Keanu said, "and I was better when I was with her." Anna looked at him. "You're still that man. Maybe even more now." Keanu didn't answer right away. He just looked up at the sky. "Some days, I feel like I'm just walking beside a shadow." Anna reached over and took his hand. "Maybe the shadow is just a reminder that you walked in the light once." That afternoon, something happened on set. A scene that required deep emotion, grief, longing, quiet strength. Keanu stepped into the shot with a different presence. Not forced, not performed, it felt real. Like his soul had opened just a little. After the scene, the crew stood silent. Not because they were told to be, but because something sacred had just passed through them. The director, a man known for being hard to impress, wiped his eyes behind the monitor. "I've never seen anything like that," he said. Anna walked over to Keanu, her voice soft. "That wasn't acting." "No," Keanu said. "That was remembering." As the shoot wrapped for the day, someone quietly placed a second chair under the tree. No one said who did it. No one needed to. From then on, every day at lunch, there were 2 chairs under the tree. One for Keanu. One for Jen. But the most unexpected part of the story came days later when Anna, by accident, discovered something Jen had started. and never had the chance to finish. The unfinished story. It was late in the evening when Anna found it. The crew had wrapped early because of a power issue on set. Most people had left, but Anna stayed behind, reviewing her lines and packing up. She passed by the props room and noticed an old binder left on one of the tables, half open, pages sticking out. Something about it caught her eye. It was the handwriting. It was instinct. She reached over, pulled it closer, and slowly opened the cover. Inside were pages of a screenplay handwritten in soft blue ink, with careful notes in the margins. It wasn't part of the production, it wasn't typed, it wasn't official. The title on the first page read, "The Last Letter Written by Jennifer." Clarina froze, her heart pounded. Was it the same Jen? She flipped through the pages, scanning. The lines, the story was raw, simple, beautiful. It followed a quiet man who had lost the love of his life. He kept a letter in his coat, one he read every time the world grew too heavy, that each scene unfolded with aching detail conversations. That felt familiar, like the ones Keanu had shared. A silent tree, an untouched seat, a woman's voice heard only in memory. The script wasn't finished, ended halfway through a scene. The man had just read the letter aloud in a quiet park. And then ... nothing. Just blank paper. Oh, conclusion. No ending. Anna sat down, breathless. It was her. Had to be Jen. She rushed to the assistant director, who had access to old male props and personal items used in earlier shoots. "Where did this come from?" she asked, holding the script carefully. The assistant shrugged. "We found it in an old box Keanu left in storage from the first week of filming. Said we could use anything inside as filler." Anna stared at the pages. He hadn't told anyone, not even her. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the unfinished scene. The way it stopped in the middle of a line. It felt like Jen's voice had been cut short, like her story was still waiting to be heard. The next morning, she brought the script to Keanu. He was sitting under the tree again, sipping coffee. When she handed him the pages, he looked confused. Then his eyes widened. "You found this?" he said, his voice nearly breaking. Anna nodded. "I read it. It's beautiful. It's her, isn't it?" Keanu gently touched the pages like they were made of glass. "It's her. I remember when she started writing it, said it was just for fun. A story about healing. She never finished it." Anna sat beside him. "Maybe it's time we do." Keanu looked at her. "What do you mean? Finish it together," Anna said softly. "You knew her better than anyone. You know how it was supposed to end." He was quiet for a long time. Then, with tears shining in his eyes, he nodded. They spent the next few nights working on it. Line by line, Keanu wrote slowly, carefully, pausing often to remember her voice, her style, her rhythm. Anna sat beside him, helping shape the scenes, suggesting gentle transitions. They weren't just writing a script, they were bringing Jen back to life, one page at a time. Every word felt like a step toward something sacred. The story evolved. The man in the tale didn't just hold on to a letter, he found a way to live again. Not by forgetting the past, but by embracing the love that never left him. He started helping others who were grieving. He planted a tree in his wife's memory. He laughed again. Not the way he used to, but in a way that mattered. When they wrote the final line together, Keanu sat back and closed his eyes. "She would have loved this," he whispered. Anna smiled. She helped write it. They printed the script and handed it quietly to the director. No pitch, no explanation. It's just the words. The director read it that same night. The next morning, he called a meeting. "I know we're already working on a film," he said, holding up the script. "But this is something else. Something we have to make." And the crew agreed. Without hesitation, they carved out time, space, and budget to shoot The Last Letter as a side project, something quiet, intimate, and deeply human. But what happened during filming would surprise everyone, because as the cameras rolled and Keanu stepped into the role he was born to play, he began to heal, and the world would soon see a part of Keanu Reeves no one had seen before. The scene no one expected filming The Last Letter began in silence. No fanfare, no big announcements, just a few lights, a handheld camera, and a skeleton crew. Yet everyone on set felt something different, like they were walking into a space. That wasn't just a film set, but a place between grief and grace. Keanu wasn't acting, not in the way people usually understand it. He didn't perform his lines. He breathed them. Every scene came from a place deeper than memory, like the words had been carved into his soul long before the camera ever rolled. Anna watched him closely in one scene. His character sat alone under a tree holding the old letter. The pages fluttered in the wind. The camera slowly pushed in, and without being asked, Keanu began to speak not the lines from the script, but words from his heart. I thought if I stayed quiet enough, long enough, maybe the world would stop asking me to move on, he said. But love doesn't leave you. It just changes shape. The director didn't yell cut. He let the camera roll, and the crew stood frozen, because what they were witnessing wasn't acting, it was truth. When the scene ended, Keanu sat still. It's no applause, no direction. Just silence. Then one of the lighting techs quietly walked off set and wept behind the van. Anna followed him, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. I lost my dad last year, he whispered. He used to write me letters, too. Hearing Keanu say that ... It felt like my father was talking to me again. Anna nodded, tears in her eyes. You're not alone. Word spread quietly about the film. Within days, other cast and crew members began sharing their own stories of loss. Sound mixer, who had never spoken much, admitted she still wore her sister's bracelet. A production assistant carried his grandmother's locket in his pocket. Even the gruff set designer confessed he planted lilies every spring for his wife, who had passed 2 years ago. Something had changed. The last letter wasn't just a movie. It became a healing circle, a space where grief could exist without shame. Where silence wasn't awkward, it was respected. One afternoon, Anna arrived early on set and found Keanu under the tree again. This time, he wasn't holding the old letter. He was writing. What's that? She asked softly. A new letter. He said, to Jen, paused, then smiled. It's time I said goodbye. Not to her love, but to the pain. He handed her the page. Dear Jen, for so long, I thought holding on meant never letting go, but now I see. ... Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means living with your love, not beside it. I kept our letter close because I was afraid the world would forget you. But they didn't, and neither did I. Your words carried me when I couldn't stand. Your memory gave me strength when I felt empty. You were my home. But maybe now I can build a new one. Not to replace you, but to honor you. Thank you for loving me then. Thank you for staying with me now. Always yours. Keanu wiped her eyes. You should read that in the final scene. Keanu nodded. I will. And when they filmed the last shot, he sat under the tree, letter in hand. Voice trembling but strong. He read it slowly, clearly, his voice full of quiet grace. When he finished, he folded the paper, placed it in the pocket of his coat, and looked up at the sky. The camera kept rolling. Then, something unplanned happened. A soft breeze moved through the set, lifting the leaves around him, and Keanu whispered, I miss you. The crew stood still. The director's hands shook. Cut, said finally. But no one moved. Anna walked to him and wrapped her arms around him, not just as a co-star, not as a friend, but as someone who had walked through grief beside him and come out the other side. As the team packed up that day, something unexpected appeared on set. A small bench, handmade. Simple. Beautiful. Engraved on the wood were just for words. For Jen. With love, no one admitted who made it, but everyone sat on it one by one, over the next week, leaving behind something of their own. A flower. A note. A photo. A small rock with initials. Little pieces of remembrance. And the final twist of it all. When the last letter was released quietly online, no promotion, it went viral. Millions of people watched. Not because it was marketed, not because it was flashy, but because it was real. Letters poured in from around the world. People wrote about their own losses, their own memories, their own silent grief. And in every one of those messages, the same. Word kept appearing, thank you. But the most powerful moment came when Anna opened one letter, addressed to Keanu. It was from someone no one expected. The letter from the little girl's letter arrived in a plain white envelope. No return address. The handwriting on the front was small, uneven, like someone still learning how to write. Anna found it tucked in a stack of fan mail. The assistant director had collected. Something about it felt different. She handed it to Keanu later that afternoon. They sat together in the quiet of the old set. The film was finished. The tree was still there. The wooden bench for Jen with love remained untouched, now treated with care like a monument. Keanu took the envelope and opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of lined notebook paper, folded twice. He unfolded it and began to read. Dear Mr. Keanu, my mommy died last year. I saw your movie with my daddy. Cried. I never saw him cry before. I didn't understand everything, but I saw you sit by the tree and hold the letter and cry and smile and cry again. And I told my daddy, I think he misses someone too. My mommy used to write me little notes in my lunchbox. She drew hearts and wrote things like you are strong and I love you no matter what. After she died, I stopped reading them. I hid them in a shoebox under my bed because it hurt. But after your movie, I read them again. And I told my daddy, maybe mommy is still with us, in the words. He hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe. So thank you for showing me that sad things can be beautiful too. Your friend Lena. Age 8, Keanu didn't speak. He held the letter to his chest, his eyes closed. Anna wiped her eyes, then smiled. She gets it, she whispered. He nodded slowly. She really does. He stood up and walked over to the bench beneath the tree. Carefully, like it was sacred, he placed Lena's letter beside the others among the flowers, the notes, the trinkets. Then he sat, not in grief, not in pain, but in peace. Asterisk, asterisk. The next weeks brought more messages, more stories. The film had started. A quiet movement. People began writing their own last letters. To loved ones, to friends, to those they'd lost and those they still held close. Libraries hosted last letter evenings where people could come read what they had never been able to say out loud. Hospitals created writing corners for families saying goodbye. Even schools encouraged children to write to grandparents or pets who had passed. A simple story, filmed in silence, had touched something universal. Asterisk, asterisk, Anna and Keanu traveled together for a few small interviews. Though they never promoted the film the usual way. They didn't need to. One morning, while sitting by a window in a quiet cafe, Anna turned to Keanu and asked, Do you still carry the old letter? He smiled, pulled his jacket aside, and showed her the pocket. Always. But then he added, But now I carry Lena's too. Anna's eyes lit up. She'll be so proud. He looked out the window, thoughtful. I used to think I was walking alone with my grief, but now I think maybe grief is just love that doesn't know where to go, and when you share it, it becomes something else. What does it become? She asked. A story, he said. And stories heal. Asterisk, asterisk, years later. The last letter became more than just a film. It became a book, a stage play, a movement. But for Keanu, it remained something much simpler. It was a conversation between him and Jen. A way to honor the love that shaped him. He never sat under that tree alone again, because every time he did, someone new would come join him, not to talk, not to ask for advice, but to sit, to breathe, to remember. And sometimes, when the wind moved just right, you could almost hear it, a woman's voice in the breeze, whispering soft as a memory. You are more than your sorrow, he would smile, because he believed it now. Asterisk, asterisk, in the end. Keanu Reeves didn't need fame to be seen. He just needed someone to ask why he sat alone. And when they did, the world listened and healed together.